thought today I would read out a few favourite recipes for you. The first one is Toll House cookies. They're very yummy. You need 250 grams of butter, half a cup of caster sugar, half a cup of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence, and 2 eggs. 2.25 cups of plain flour, 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate soda, it's like baking soda, 1 cup of nuts chopped, that's optional, 200 grams of Nestle chocolate bits or other chocolate bits or chopped up pieces of chocolate. Cream your butter and sugars and vanilla together. Then beat in the eggs gradually. Fold in sifted dry ingredients and stir in 150 grams of Nestle chocolate bites and the nuts if you're adding nuts. Otherwise, whatever chocolate you're using. Place teaspoon lots of the mix into greased slides. That's your trays that you're going to bake on. You gently rub the butter or some sort of something on it so they don't stick. Just gently do that. Grease the trays. Otherwise you can use baking paper to bake them on and then you don't need to grease it. And top the little ones that you've put on there, the teaspoon lots, top those up with little sprinkles of extra little dots of chocolate. And then bake in the oven at 190 degrees Celsius for 10 to 12 minutes in the oven. Preheat your oven to 190 degrees Celsius and then bake them for a short amount of time. That's 10 to 12 minutes. But it's best to check them because different ovens are slightly different temperatures. So I find that in my oven things cook a little faster, so 10 minutes is plenty. But in other ovens the temperatures vary slightly. I've got some other recipes for you. I've got my favourite cheese scone recipe to read out soon. I've got to locate that. But I've got a lovely one here for vegetable frittata. Now for this you need 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 1 onion, peeled and chopped. Chop it up nice and fine. And a clove of garlic crushed. And you need 2 to 4 small zucchini sliced. And 2 medium-sized tomatoes. You skin them and you chop them. And a little black pepper to season it. And 1 teaspoon of ground oregano. And 1 teaspoon of dried thyme. And 1 teaspoon of dried basil. You could use fresh if you wanted. And a little pinch of sugar and 6 eggs that you've beaten. Beat your eggs out nice and fluffy and then you add them all together and you bake it in a greased 20 centimetre pie dish in a moderate oven of around about 180 degrees Celsius for 25 to 30 minutes. When it's set, you stand it. Once you bring it out of the oven, you let it stand for 5 minutes before before you take it out and put it on the plate, because it will be kind of mushy otherwise. You've got to let it set. So you stand it for 5 minutes without doing anything. Just bring it out the oven and leave it to the side for 5 minutes. And then you can put it onto a plate to serve warm. And that serves 5 to 6 slices, 5 to 6 people. My scone recipe is a favourite, but I can't find my one for the cheese scones. I've got that put aside special, and I've got to just go and find it. But I've got another scone recipe here. This one's 2 cups of flour, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 ounce of butter, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and about 3/4 of a cup of milk. With scones, I find it best to add the milk gradually, because sometimes you don't need so much, and you don't want to make your mixture too wet. Now, somebody's letting off fireworks and having some kind of celebration. It's nothing to concern you, nothing to worry about. It's only fireworks, okay? It sounds loud and it sounds not so good, but it's just people letting off their crackers and things, having a party. And we're much better off to be here. Now, where were we? Yes, so you've got your 3/4 of a cup of milk. Might not need all of that. Now, you sift your dry ingredients. You sift your 2 cups of flour and your 3 teaspoons of baking powder. You sift them, and then you rub the butter. That's the 1 ounce of butter. You rub it into the mixture until it looks like breadcrumbs. Oh, they are so noisy. Please don't worry about that. They're just partying up there with their crackers and sparkles. They do look pretty in the sky, but they make a terrible noise. And if you don't know what it is, it doesn't sound good. Now, until it's like fine breadcrumbs, so you can mix it with your hands or with a fork, or if you've got one of those old-fashioned ones that's a butter thingy that's got all those wires and it's got the little wooden part. I've got one of those. You can work it through the butter through the flour with that before having to use your hands, and that works quite well. Now, once you've got them looking like breadcrumbs, just tiny, you can add 1/2 cup of sultanas if you like to this one, and you mix it all into a soft dough with the milk. Now, that's where you add your milk gradually, mixing it in till you get the soft dough, just in case you don't need quite so much milk. And if it's still too firm, you can add a tiny bit extra. Once you've got it all mixed in nicely, you knead it on a lightly floured board. And then you roll it out and cut it. Cut it into the shapes where you don't have to cut it. Once you've rolled it, you can just break it into pieces of the size and chunkiness that you want for scones. Place them on a lightly greased tray and bake at 200 degrees Celsius. Now, if your oven runs a little hot, you can put the temperature slightly lower. Otherwise, keep an eye on it, because it may take less time or it may take more depending on your oven. 200 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes, basically until it's golden brown and they look nice and lovely. And then you can brush the tops of the scones with milk. Now I don't do that. I think you do that before you cook it. You don't brush your freshly cooked scones with milk. No, that won't be good. You brush them with milk before you cook them. If you're going to do that. I don't actually do that. I don't put milk on them. But if you were going to, you do it before you bake them, not after. Have I got any other nice recipes here? I will have a quick look. I've got out my recipe book. But my favourite thing that I make very often is the cheese scones. And I shall give you that recipe later. I've got a 1 egg chocolate cake you might be interested in. It's 50 grams of butter, 1 tablespoon of golden syrup, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence, half a cup of sugar, and 1 cup of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of cocoa, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and half a cup of milk and icing sugar. Now melt your butter. That's your 50 grams of butter. You melt that with the golden syrup, the tablespoon of golden syrup. You melt those in a saucepan, large enough to mix all the ingredients. Just mix it in there and melt it. And then you leave it to cool. So you've got your butter melted and your golden syrup melted in this big pot, and you leave it to cool. Then once it's cooled, once it's nice and cool, you add your egg and your vanilla essence and the sugar. You beat them all well with a wooden spoon. You sift your flour and baking powder and cocoa into the mixture. You could do it all in a bowl and then put it back in the pot if you wanted, because sometimes it's easier to do it in a bowl than in a pot. You could tip out your malted mix and mix all the others up. Mix it all up and then add it to the melted butter and golden syrup. So you've sifted your flour, baking powder and cocoa into the mixture. Now you dissolve separately. You dissolve the baking soda in the milk separately. Put them in a different little container. The baking soda, which was 1 teaspoon of baking soda, you mix it with 1/2 of a cup, not 1 1/2, just half a cup of milk, and you dissolve the baking soda in that half a cup of milk, and then you add it to the other mixture, and you beat it well with a wooden spoon until it's well combined and smooth. Using your wooden spoon, you give it a good mix up. Once you've added your baking soda that's dissolved in the milk, once you've added that to the other mixture, you mix it really, really well till you get a smooth, silky consistency. And then you pour all the mixture into a baking paper lined 20 centimetre round cake tin. Now sometimes I haven't done it with the baking paper. I've just greased with butter. I've just used butter and melted butter and greased the cake tin, but it's possibly better to use it lined. It might turn out better. You bake it at 180 degrees Celsius, 180 degrees Celsius for 35 until the cake springs back when you lightly touch it. Be careful when you go in to touch it, not to burn yourself. But just, if it springs back, then it's ready. Approximately 35 minutes, approximately. Then once it's ready and it's springy and not burnt, you get it out, but you leave it in the tin. You don't get it out of the tin, you just get it out of the oven and leave it in the tin for 5 minutes. Let it cool down a bit and settle, because it's a bit like the other recipe. It needs a little time to set. Once it comes out of the oven, you have to leave it for just a little while so that it will set nicely. And then you can turn it out onto a cooling tray to finish cooling. When it's cold, you can dust it with sifting icing sugar if you wish. Add whipped cream when it's cold. And strawberries maybe, fresh strawberries or frozen fruit. You can put them on there. You could do whatever you wanted. It's nice with icing sugar. It would also be nice with a little whipped cream and a little fruit maybe, because chocolate and fruit go nice together, especially strawberries and raspberries and that sort of thing. Oh, it's got here. I wasn't reading the rest of it. It's already gone. I was thinking, it says here can be topped with whipped cream and fruit. Yes, well, I was thinking I would do that. A little whipped cream, a little fruit. And it says suggest here strawberries, which I thought of too, and mandarin pieces, which I did not think of. Apparently, I guess orange and chocolate go well together too. So it says put little mandarin pieces on it, on the whipped cream. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm feeling hungry now. I might have to make one of those. Only I haven't got most of the ingredients. But yeah, sounds yummy. I could read you some other recipes another time if you'd like. I have to discover my cheese scone recipe. I think it might be even attached to the fridge with a fridge magnet, because it gets used a lot. I've got it written down, and it's in a little Ziploc bag so that when we're making it, if the mixture gets on it, I don't have to keep on rewriting it out. It's in a little Ziploc bag that keeps it nice and clean. And then if little hands are helping and it gets a little messy, I can just either change the bag or wipe the bag down and keep it nice, ready for next time. Because there's always little helpers to make cheese scones, because they're fun and yummy and just, it's very basic ingredients. Ones that you're most likely, as long as you've got cheese. And yeah, it doesn't take many ingredients to make them. And they're nice for a lunch or just a snack. And they're best eaten warm. They're tastiest when you eat them warm. The cheese scones, fresh from the oven, they're just delicious. Or at least in the same day that you made them, they're the best. I tend not to make a big batch, just enough to enjoy for that day, because they're fun to make and they're quick and easy and just yummy. Well, thank you so much for joining me to listen to the recipes. I hope that you have a wonderful day and an awesome evening and a really, really relaxing sleep that's tranquil and peaceful and filled with happy thoughts, so that you're all nice and energized, ready for the next day and happy. See everybody. I'll see you again soon.